Alright, y'all, no messing around today. We already have the camera zoomed in on my face because yet again we have another very serious conversation to get into. And damn it, this might be the most serious conversation of them all. Because if DLC 10 does not announce one of these two things, that'll just be some straight up bullshit. I'm telling you right here, right now, if one of these two things that we're going to talk about within this video, which is really kind of similar to each other, are not announced with DLC 10, I'll be very upset. And this will be my reaction.
Hey yo, what the
As you see, again, very upset would be me if one of these two things, which we're about to get into, first and foremost, with the announced with DLC Pack 10, two things, like I said, could be announced. Really the same things. The first one is that this is finally the last DLC. Bandai, dicks, please make this the last DLC. Start working on Xenoverse 3. That is what like I said, they really coincide with each other because the first announcement, like I said, would be announcing that this is the last DLC for Xenoverse 2. They announced that with DLC 9, we're getting another DLC with DLC Pack 10. So hopefully, we do not get another announcement saying, oh, there's going to be a DLC 11 or Ultra Pack 3. Like, really? Huh? That is not what I want anymore with Xenoverse 2. And do not get me wrong, I love all the content that we have on the game, all the characters, things like that. Who doesn't like new content for one of their favorite games? But at the same time, they need to stop working on DLC for Xenoverse 2 and finally move on to the second announcement, like I was saying, which just would be the greatest thing possible for Xenoverse, would be announcing that Xenoverse 3 is in the works after DLC 10 is released. Now that is that is much more unlikely than them announcing that DLC 10 is the last DLC. Because with them announcing that DLC 10 would be the last one, we can kind of figure out that they are most likely working on Xenoverse 3, and we can expect maybe some kind of Xenoverse 3 announcements next year, E3, things like that. But again, that is only if they announce that DLC 10 is the last one, or if they just come straight out and say that Xenoverse 3 is in the works after DLC 10 actually releases. One of those two things, one of those two announcements would be the best possible thing that DLC 10 can do. If you do that for me, you can't, like, okay, let me not say it because I don't want them to just lower their expectations, but I wouldn't be as bothered or concerned with the content of DLC 10 if I knew that that was the last one and Xenoverse 3 is finally coming. If that were the case, I would just be so happy. I would be excited. Again, I would not be worried about what they add in DLC Pack 10. Yes, of course, I would make videos and cover and all things like that. But if it's not the greatest DLC in the world, I would not be upset. Why? Because I know, finally, we are moving on in this series. The next installment of Xenoverse would finally come. And again, there's still probably people to this day who are like, you know, Xenoverse 3 ain't gonna happen. And I'm just looking at you like, huh? Because it doesn't make sense from a marketing standpoint and a sales standpoint to not move on with the Xenoverse series. If you have so much confidence in a series / game to release 10 motherfucking DLCs, then you should have enough confidence to move on into the next installment. That's just the fact that they released 10 should show you that this game is not going anywhere. Why would you keep dropping DLC for a game that you do not plan on continuing? We're literally in the 3rd season of DLC for Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. What games do you hear having 3 seasons of DLC? I've never really heard of one before. Now, the next one that could possibly have that is Fighters. Fighters has a high possibility of actually having a 3rd season, which makes a ton of more sense considering Fighters till this day is being played competitively at tournaments and things like that. Xenoverse has never really been a tournament type of game, one that was played competitively, but the fact that it's alive still to this day just shows how good of a game it actually is, how much the fan base truly loves it, and how unique it really is from other fighting games. Like I've said in past videos, you know, there's really no game like Xenoverse 3. Yeah, Fighters might have its different stuff regarding, you know, compared to other 2Ds, how you got the dashing, all the different abilities, stuff like that. Not all 2D games have that. But at the same time, it is still a 2D game, and there are a lot of other 2D games that are still very similar to fighters. You can't get your Xenoverse experience anywhere else. You can get a good 2D fighting game experience from other games besides Dragon Ball FighterZ. So that is really why this game is still alive today, even though it's not played competitively like FighterZ is, because there is no game really like Xenoverse at all that I've played till this day. And then on top of it, it's Dragon Ball. It's amazing. I absolutely love Dragon Ball. So when you combine those two things together, it results in what Xenoverse 2 has been, and that's a very, very successful game that has lasted literally over 3 years in like a month or two. Think about that. In a month, actually. This game has been alive for 3 years, still pretty much going strong, still has players, a good amount of players playing to this day, still has a bunch of people buying the DLCs when they actually released. So again, man, I do not see them stopping the Xenoverse series for the reasons that I just stated. There's too much money involved for Bandai and Dimps to actually discontinue this series and not work on it anymore. It would literally blow my mind if they did not continue the Xenoverse series and went a different route. But again, like I said, I truly believe that they will. I'm like 95% sure that we should get an announcement for it next year, hopefully with DLC 10. They announced, like I said, the end of DLCs for Xenoverse 2, or they announced that Xenoverse 3 is in the works. Excuse me. But with the announcement of DLC 10 being the last one, we can again kind of figure out and kind of conclude that that Xenoverse 3 is actually in progress and something that they will be working on, hopefully announcing at next year's E3. That would, if it's not announced with DLC 10, which again, it's very highly unlikely, it's more likely for them to say that this is the last DLC, but if it's not announced with DLC 10 and it's announced at E3, I would go absolutely crazy. I would be so excited, so hyped. You will see me jumping for joy. So definitely stay tuned for next year's E3. I know it's a long time away, but I will have my reactions to that E3 on the channel without doubt this time around, because I'm expecting greatness from Bandai and Dimps. Just saying. But let me know what you guys think about this on everything that I really said in this video. Do you think that would be the greatest possible announcement that DLC 10 could have for Xenoverse 2, announcing that this is the last DLC, or announcing that Xenoverse 3 is in the works for 2020 or 2020 at the beginning of 2021? Because like I said, as of right now, we have no idea what the 2020 Dragon Ball game is. The 2019 Dragon Ball game was Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Even though it is releasing in 2020, it's literally releasing in January. So that kind of shows you that game was really meant to be that 2019 Dragon Ball Z game that satisfies Bandai's contract. Because like I told you guys before, Bandai has some kind of contract. I don't know the exact workings of it, but I do know that they have to make a Dragon Ball game each and every single year. So I'm very, very hopeful that next year's Dragon Ball game is finally going to be Xenoverse 3, but we'll see and find out more, like I said, hopefully with DLC 10 and then, you know, next year starting up and things like that. But let me know again you guys' thoughts on everything I said. But as always, man, thank you guys so much for watching. Really, really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Until next time, I hope you have a good day. Peace.